Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to another TBR video to be released. So new releases this time the month of May. I know it's already the 10th of May, so I'm way later than you normally have my TBR videos. But with uploading only once a week, my schedule is sort of a little bit messed up. But I thought the 10th of May, it's not even, the middle of the month, so I might film it anyway. So for those of you who don't know, the TBR video is new releases that I personally find interesting. I always pick four or five of those new releases, and then I present them to you because you might find them interesting as well. And as always, we start the TBR with general fiction, and this time it's a debut novel. I'm interested in discovering new authors, and maybe so are you. And the one I picked is called All My Mother's Lovers by Ilana Massad. And Ilana Massad is she calls herself an Israeli-American queer author. She published short fiction in a variety of magazines, and she is living in Oregon doing her PhD. And the novel, All My Mother's Lovers, is about Maggie, a 27-year-old woman in a relationship with Lucia, coming from, the typical married household background. Her parents had this, as Maggie thought, blissfully happy marriage. There is a brother, but then Iris, Maggie's mother, dies unexpectedly in a car crash. And when Maggie comes home, she finds in the will of her mother also 7 sealed envelopes addressed to 7 men that Maggie has never heard of. And so Maggie embarks on a road trip in order to find those men, and in the course of this road trip, as the blurb tells me, she will discover a hidden second life of her mother. Now, if you're following me, you know I'm not much of a road trip fan, neither movies nor books, but this premise that you have to maybe recalibrate the idea that you have of somebody you know very well, in this case your parents, your mother, the marriage they have. I think that's always an interesting topic, at least to me. And that's why I picked this debut novel for the May TBR general fiction. Oh, and I thought I forgot to mention All My Mother's Lovers will come out towards the end of May on the 26th. Next up is translated fiction and slash sci-fi of sorts, even though we will have, of course, we end this video as we always do with another sci-fi. But this is in the category translated fiction, and that is Samantha Schweblin's new novel, Little Eyes, which came out already, and I think in the US it even came out end of March. But it's now out, 5th of May is the publication date that I noted. The book has been translated from the Spanish by Megan McDowell. Samantha Schweblin, of course, most of you will know, is an Argentinian writer, and I really liked one of her previous books, Fever Dream. So I was interested in this one, especially because of the premise. And the premise is as follows. You have these little stuffed animals, and they have cameras behind their eyes, and they have wheels so that they can go around, and they are all connected to some anonymous, mysterious global server. And you have them as pets, and you can also be one of those little eyes, Kentuckys they are called, in order to, invade somebody else's privacy. And the novel looks at the impact that these little eyes have on various people's lives, from Vancouver to Hong Kong. So yeah, I thought that was really an interesting premise, a sort of a visionary book. And like I said, because I really enjoyed Samantha Schweblin's Fever Dreams, this book made it onto the TBR for translated fiction. Next up is nonfiction, and I've picked 2 books, and the first of those is the new essay collection by Olivia Lang, Funny Weather, Art in an Emergency, which will come out today the 10th, next week on the 12th of May. Olivia Laing is a UK author, a British author, and I really enjoyed her previous nonfiction book, The Lonely City, about the art of being alone in a big city. I have to say, I didn't care that much for her novel that she published, I think, 2 years ago, Crudo. Autofiction, not quite my thing, but the nonfiction writing of Olivia Laing I really enjoyed. And this collection is not new essays, it's a collected a book about her essays about art. I mean, some of them are relatively new, but most of them have been previously published in magazines. But I really like nonfiction about art, especially if it ties art into politics and current affairs. And from what I understood, this book or these essays collected in this book, Funny Weather, they do exactly that. So I'm really looking forward to Olivia Laing's new book, Funny Weather. And like I said, I have a second nonfiction book picked for the May TBR, and that is Maggie Doherty, The Equivalence. Equivalence. Which will come out on the 19th of May. Maggie Doherty is a lecturer at Harvard University, and this is her debut book. And I thought the idea behind the book sounded really riveting. I have to say, if you look at it on Goodreads, Doris from All the Books would have never picked this book because it has an abysmal average rating of 2.7 or something, but there are only 14 people. And it might be that the people who rated gave it very low rating out of these 14s. It was just not a book for them. So I don't care. I want to see for myself because of the subject of the book. Maybe I should have started with that, but anyway. In 1960, Radcliffe College, for the first time, offered or it had a new department, independent study, and it offered PhD or the equivalent to female artists. So there are 6 women. The poet Anne Sexton being one of them, an artist, a sculptor, a writer, who, as Maggie Doherty claims, really made history. And I thought that sounds fascinating. First of all, Anne Sexton, always interested in her, but also because it tries to shed light, on forgotten women in the arts, and this idea of this group of women who became friends in 1960 and who had an impact on the development of art. I personally thought it sounded really fascinating, and I hope that the low average rating is just, like I said, because people read the book and maybe it's too dry for them, or I don't know. But I thought it was fascinating, so I had to include it in the May TBR. And like I said earlier, we end this TBR as we always do with sci-fi, even though there was already a sci-fi of sorts in the translated fiction. But anyway, Martha Wells has a new novel coming out, The Network Effect, or it came out already on the 5th of May, I should rather say. Martha Wells is a Texan-based author. She writes fantasy and sci-fi, and I especially love her for her Murderbot series. Those short novellas, 4 have come out. The last was Exit Strategy, and this one, Network Effect, is the first standalone novel-length book about the Murderbot. If you haven't never read the Murderbot, you are really missing out. Murderbot is looks like a human being, but is an artificial intelligence, a robot with issues. Let's say that. Intimacy issues, but also other issues, like the Murderbot would say itself. 99% of the time, it's in its own head, and there's where all the problems are. I love the Murderbot. It's such hilariously funny, not haha funny, but funny in a subtle sense, a person or character. I love the adventures, and in this, The Network Effect, the human associates. Normally you would say friends, but the murderbot doesn't have any friends, so the human associates are in trouble, and the murderbot has to decide whether or not to take action. And of course it does, it takes action. I don't know more than that, but the fact that it's about the murderbot and it's the first novel-length book about this character, I'm sold, absolutely. And if you want to try, maybe see whether this is something that you like, the murderbot books, you could first try one of the shortest, the novellas, and I think they are available on Script even. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading 350 pages about the murderbot. Anyway, those were my picks for the May TBR. I kept it rather short this time. I'm really proud of myself. It's only 15 minutes or something, or even under 15 minutes, I think. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Looking forward, as always, to your comments, and I'll see you all in the next one next Sunday.